Man. Okay. Comments are gonna suck for this video, maybe, potentially. I don't know. They might not. I don't know if it's just me, but there seems to be a whole lot more debate bro content swirling around the internet lately. It could very well be that I've created either accidentally or unconsciously an algorithm that is feeding me Jubilee videos titled things like "Leftist obliterates conservative" or "20 leftists destroy conservative and then wipe the floor with his bloated corpse." I know that platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube can end up creating a silo if you're not actively trying to prevent it. But even my 65-year-old dad has seen the Dean Withers humbles Emily Saves America clip from the One Night with Steiny podcast.
You as a woman could stand for someone that, overturned Roe v. Wade, rescinding the right to get an abortion back to the state, leading like 65,000
I think it should be state by state.
Victims of sexual abuse. Okay, why?
That's fine. I think if everyone in a state wants something, go ahead and have it.
So if everyone in Alabama wanted slavery back, you'd be okay with that?
Sure. If everyone in the state wants it, go ahead. What do I give a
It probably feels like there's a lot of political debate content because of the upcoming election. That's maybe already happened by the time this comes out. People are out campaigning for their candidate, trying to get people to go vote, and spreading information about their policies. Or lack thereof.
Just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if...
There's a fervor from every ideological corner talking about politics, and for some, capitalizing on the increased interest and engagement political content brings. Me included. Now, I'm not a political commentator, and will be the first to admit that I'm a dummy. But I have a genuine question when it comes to some of the content, like in the clip I just shared. Are these debates productive or even necessary most of the time? I know I'm not the only one who's tired of it.
Here's my grievances for the day. Why are we still doing debate stuff? What's going on with that? Guys, no. Okay? They don't care. They don't see certain people as human beings, right? Like, there's not a debate. There's just... That's not happening, right? You have to both agree that a group of people are human beings. Debate's over. It's done. Punch them in the face.
If you're a returning viewer, you're probably familiar with my personal politics, either in me outright stating them or by inference. I try to cover a variety of topics here about things I find fascinating for one reason or another. Like how I've talked about line wives and mudlarking on TikTok, as well as my personal past struggles with addiction. And my favorite independent comedy streaming service that got the approval of the CEO himself, Sam Reich. Kind of a personal achievement. I've also, on occasion, talked about silly libertarians selling bad coffee, and comedians sliding down the alt-right grifter pipeline, and rage-bait trolls pushing their conservative dating app. The juxtaposition of a hyper-masculine brand or hippie weirdo using conservative ideology to sell you something is what I have found particularly fascinating and absurd in those later examples. What even is gun-flavored coffee? That's something an 8-year-old would come up with. A running theme throughout all of my videos, though, is that capitalism is bad and Reagan can suck a big one. Some might say to an annoying degree. The thing is, politics affect every aspect of everyone's life every day. Unless you've somehow managed to wander into the forest and now survive on a diet of berries and salmon free from clocking in an hour-long commutes where your only concern is finding a good back-scratching tree and where you're going to hibernate for 5 months out of the year. That's bears. I just described bear. Do you hate your job and the lack of efficient public transit? That's because of politics, and right now, they seem worse than ever. Thankfully, and I say this with all the sarcasm imaginable, we have debate bros to argue politics ad nauseum on YouTube and Twitch and TikTok and the best platform ever, Telegram. If I sound weird, it's because I bit my tongue earlier and I keep biting it doing this video. I consider myself a leftist and only recently came to the realization that my beliefs represent a fraction of the population, probably because most of my friends are and have always been leftists. Even as a teenager and into my early 20s, I was hanging out with a bunch of vegan punks who had food not bomb stickers on their beat-up guitar cases that took part in civil disobedience and protests and fundraisers for leftist causes. Which is a crazy ideology to have in a town like Reading where I grew up that's mostly conservative retirees. I don't know how that happened. It's hard to get a handle on even a rough estimate of how many politically active Americans identify as leftists, partly because of how small their numbers are, but also because they get lumped in with progressives and democratic socialists and liberals all the time, when at their core, those groups are still capitalists. Even most democratic socialists in the US don't advocate for an entirely post-capitalist system. It just sounds a little bit edgier than progressive. These differences are often missed, especially by conservatives who think calling liberals filthy pinkos is an insult, when the only real insult is thinking leftists and liberals are the same. I am a filthy pinko. According to Pew Research, the progressive left represents a small segment of Americans, and the typology diverges significantly from more moderate Democrats or traditional liberals on topics like income inequality, corporate power, and systemic racism. Just for comparison, Pew also states that far-right MAGA supporters make up similar percentages, each representing a small but highly active segment. They categorize them as the faith and flag conservatives on the far right and progressive left on the far left, each comprising around 10% of US adults. Both groups are more politically engaged compared to moderates and actively participate in voting, campaign donations, and fundraising, and online discourse, which intensifies the visibility of their views even though they're a minority. So the more fringe you are, the louder you are, and the loud groups are always the ones getting right in each other's fucking faces.
Do you think that Kamala Harris is a communist?
Yep.
Define communism.
Kamala Harris.
Well, that's an example. Give me a definition.
It's Kamala Harris. How about you define why you like Kamala Harris?
No. We're good. Please, I want to talk to him.
How about you define why you like Kamala Harris?
Sure, I'll tell you.
Please do that.
Okay, are we good? Come back in frame.
No, seriously. Tell me why you like Kamala Harris.
Let me tell you why I like Kamala Harris if you'll allow me 30 seconds to speak. I like Kamala Harris because she's not a 34-count felon like Trump.
You gotta wait for the, Are you fucking kidding me right now?
No, she's also not a violent sexual abuser like Trump. She isn't sexualized a little.
He's not, though. You listen to CNN, right?
No, he was held civilly liable by a court of law in the state of New York in the year 2022.
New York. It's New York, dude.
It's New York.
Yeah, exactly.
What about
all Democrats, man.
Oh, it's all Democrats?
Exactly.
Two of the people in the jury were Republicans.
Joe Biden appointed all of them. Are you kidding me right now?
No.
You are a silly little man.
I'm a silly little man. Jesus Christ, these people are crazy.
The question of whether these debates are actually productive is complex. While they bring attention to important issues and give leftist ideas, in particular, a broader platform, they can also oversimplify nuanced positions for the sake of virality and spectacle. On the far right, however, it seems like it's just an excuse to corner someone into a physical altercation or call someone a slur or use the loudest dog whistle of all time on national television.
I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die?
You should not.
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
I said I hope you
Guys, let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper doesn't go off.
Because you said I'm a big supporter
of the Palestinians.
Of Hamas.
As leftist political streamer Hassan Piker put it in an interview with The Verge, all of this is just bullshit. It's just pseudo-intellectual wrestling. It's sport, and it's not productive. I think it can help start a lot of people down the road of de-radicalization, but what I have to recognize is that it fosters a really toxic environment. People just want to beat their opponents, so you're not necessarily ideologically shifting anyone. Instead, the 20% of the audience that is maybe malleable gravitates towards whoever the top dog debater is, so it turns into team sports. It's not necessarily grounding your ideology in materialism, and instead, it's just basically repeating talking points from the new intellectual daddy or father figure that you appreciate or enjoy. And look, simplifying complex issues has its place. I'm not suggesting everyone who identifies as a leftist have a complete understanding of Marxism or Hegelian dialectics or are learned in every global conflict and genocide across the globe in order to have a full understanding of how capitalism and imperialism perpetuate globalized fascism. I don't think that's a fair thing to ask when the majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have health care, who would be fine with the next president making groceries less expensive. So to me, this debate bro content is a double-edged sword sometimes. It capitalizes on the fervor surrounding polarizing issues, thriving on the emotional highs and lows of politically charged discussions where the resolution is basically, look how crazy these other people are. This goes for both sides. Leftists like to blame reactionary alt-right outbursts on lead poisoning. I've done it myself. while right-wing extremists constantly make fun of blue-haired woke libtards playing the victim.
I agree with her. Like, it seems like a lot more Democrats or libs play the victim card.
So
It's the oppression.
just to be clear, look at the man on her shirt, right? This is a guy who's claimed that he's being politically persecuted, that the DOJ and the FBI is coming after him,
And
that
he's right.
everybody's coming after him, that his former advisors that he hired who have condemned him are coming after him, that his own FBI came after him, that his own Department of Homeland Security came after him, that his own Department of Justice came after him, even that his own family members are coming. This is the biggest victim in the world. He claims everybody is coming after him.
A lot of people are coming after him.
Everyone's
We know
coming
that.
after
Wait, but like, he's being held accountable for breaking the law. You're not a victim if you break the law and are held accountable.
The dismissiveness of her interjections tells me this person is not here to have a civil conversation or debate about what is true, but is there to troll and goad the guests so the audience can clap when she looks at the camera and says, he's being politically persecuted. Gotcha, liberal! The appeal is in watching ideological clashes over these divisive topics like a sport where there's a winner and a loser, when in reality, we're all losers under capitalism. To avoid sounding like an alt-right apologist, conservatives tend not to see that. Rather, they support the free market blindly without having an understanding of how it's constantly manipulated and blame their own suffering on a boogeyman or immigrants or transgender people and have no concept of intersectionality or what social constructs are because they can't think in the abstract. My worry with this kind of content is that the engagement it racks up is the motivation to keep creating it, not out of some altruistic drive to educate. And to be fair, the other side has to be at least willing to listen for that education to be effective. So when you're debating a troll who's there just to make snide remarks, nothing's gonna stick. There's a weird tension between advocacy and entertainment here. The same qualities that make these videos popular, the exaggerated takedowns, hyperbole, and clickbait titles, feel like they detract from the depth of the actual issue being discussed. I could be completely off base. Like I've said many times before, I'm a dummy, and this video is more or less just an observation that I am not at all attached to maintaining. I'd like to be proven wrong that despite the commodified commercial appeal and production of this kind of content, it is doing more good than not. I would love for people to go ahead and comment and let me know how you feel about this stuff, because I'm truly on the fence about its efficacy. Maybe not truly. I've got like one leg over the not helpful side. I mean, even the way these debate videos are promoted is kind of bullshit. Jubilee titled a recent video with Charlie Kirk and his insane gum line, Charlie Kirk versus 20 woke students. I know I'm not supposed to make fun of how people look, but Charlie Kirk is a pretty outspoken fascist. Allegedly. So fuck him. The word woke here feels pretty dismissive and almost mocking, suggesting these students are driven more by trendiness than by sincere beliefs, especially when you contrast that to a follow-up video with Dean Withers that's titled One Liberal Teen versus 20 Trump Supporters. First of all, what did I say about conflating leftist and liberal? And secondly, Trump supporters in this context feels like it downplays the alt-right affiliations that often accompany their support and sidesteps any extreme connotations by implying they're simply part of the mainstream voter base. They could have just as easily called the students progressive or leftist and Trump supporters reactionary or far-right extremists, terms that might actually reflect the ideological nuances in these settings. But framing one as woke and the other as simply supporters skews how viewers subconsciously perceive the dynamic, making one side seem extreme and the other like they're just a bunch of people who vote for a guy. Although I guess on a subconscious level, a lot of people probably see Trump supporter and think domestic terrorist. You did it to yourselves. It's not that I'm even getting fed videos by BuzzFeed adjacent content factories like Jubilee alone. It's podcast clips from former prank YouTubers and H3 going on a mission of deplatforming leftist Muslim creators for saying that Islamophobia is bad, who's suggesting that's somehow the same as being anti-Semitic.
Ethan claims that Twitch harbors anti-Semites and actively ignores it. And as some evidence, he points out that Twitch recently unbanned Sneeko and Fresh and Fit, content creators that are unambiguously anti-Semitic. And then on top of that, he highlighted this segment from an official panel at TwitchCon. All of that then led to Frogan, who's a mod for Hassan Piker's stream and also streams herself, responding and writing on Twitter. Ethan Klein lied again and said myself, Arabs, which is the show, and our guest did a tier list where, quote, good equals Arab and Jew equals bad, which isn't what happened. Our tier list was, quote, who has Habibi pass, which is a meme tier list we did with a variety of creators.
Now, I know there's a bit more nuance to that situation, but at a certain point, passing all this stuff around and debating its validity starts to feel like a reduction of complex issues down to a drama beef between micro-celebrities on the internet. It should be pretty obvious that I tend to agree with the leftists in these debates, but I can't help but ask how this stuff helps promote leftism as a viable political movement when you're just getting steamrolled by conservatives in these debates who don't allow their opponent time to get an entire thought out. At the end of the day, platforming conservatives as a means to point out their lack of conviction or consistency or good faith can be a good thing when done well. But the sensationalism that's often employed starts to feel cynical when we're all focused more on the interpersonal drama of people who we do not know than on substantive issues for the sole purpose of getting clicks and engagement. On one side, you have those trying to, for the most part, have good faith discussions, debunking myths about gender-affirming care and immigrants eating dogs, and the other side made up of people who have no intention of ever conceding that their morals might be fucked, even when you fact-check them. They simply do not care to engage with reality, so what's the point beyond generating some ad revenue? To me, this type of content is hard to watch because, one, it's cringy to see someone embarrassed when they say something that is patently false and stumble over their words, and two, infuriating to watch someone so deluded say something like immigrants shouldn't be in this country who is married to an immigrant themselves.
Are you a U.S.-born citizen?
100%.
You're statistically speaking 4 times more likely to commit a violent crime than an undocumented migrant. So when you kind of virtue signal on behalf of that,
they shouldn't be here.
Okay. All right.
And my husband's an immigrant.
Okay. Yeah, but
a legal immigrant.
Okay.
There is absolutely no way to convince these people they're wrong because everything is a conspiracy to them. It's tin hat wearing turtles all the way down. Now, do I on occasion revel to a certain degree when some edgy right-wing internet personality cancels themselves when they say something like they'd be okay with slavery making a comeback?
What do I give a
All right. Well, let's go next topic.
Yes. Do I worry that hyper-focusing on these sound bites to the point it goes viral and overshadows other, better ways to communicate how atrocious these kinds of ideas are? Also, yes. Mainly because typically the two debaters are completely mismatched in their knowledge, or lack thereof, on the topics they're arguing for or against. You wouldn't make a 50-year-old tenured philosophy professor debate a toddler about nihilism, which is about the imbalanced knowledge base we're working with in some of these debates.
Don't worry about pseudo-intellectuals because they will out themselves. There was a channel that reacted to a video of mine, and in the video I said like reductio or reductio ad absurdum at one point, and in the comments of that reaction to my video, there was a comment from this really big right-wing commentary / reaction channel, which brands itself as like a critical thinking platform, but really it's just red pill content. And this channel commented, "The chick is using Harry Potter words to make her argument." Brother, it's called Latin.
This kind of engagement frequently devolves into a leftist or alt-right circle jerk, a momentary gotcha that validates either viewer's existing beliefs but does little to stem the doom loop they trigger. The content creates an antagonistic narrative that lacks subtlety and nuance and reduces politics and policy that directly affects people's lives down to a team sport. I mean, they literally made these people dress in red and blue based on their political affiliation and had them sit in bleachers like they're attending a basketball game, which created a pretty powerful visual metaphor if you ask me. It misses the fundamental purpose of debate and argumentation, leaving us with little more than a fleeting sense of satisfaction in the face of adversity. Instead of meaningful dialogue or empathy, to me, it feels like it's just reinforcing division by making us feel more despondent about the state of political discourse being nothing more than a game show where there are no points and we all lose. That's the video. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you made it this far, that means you're special and probably a leftist. Now you have to follow the rules of the channel, which are like, comment, share, subscribe. And you can go follow me on Instagram where I post updates about the channel and leftist memes. Honestly, it's a lot of those. Until I'm having a stroke, I think. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. Until next time, vanish.